how to make the perfect cupcake. There is a science behind cupcakes, and it's all to do with getting the air in the mixture and getting your cupcakes to come up beautifully fluffy so they taste delightful. Now, the key to this is getting your creaming right. The ingredients we're going to use for making cupcakes are caster sugar. Don't use granulated, it's just too coarse. So you use caster sugar, which is quite fine, and then either butter or margarine. If you use butter, you need to make sure it's out of the fridge for at least 2 hours beforehand so it comes up to room temperature. If you're making your cupcakes in a mixer, even butter straight out of the fridge, you will be there for half an hour to even get it soft enough to cream properly. Alternatively, use margarine. I always make sure I use one that doesn't have any hydrogenated fats at all. So for a 12 cupcake mix, we're using modern measurements, 150 grams of caster sugar and 150 grams of butter with 3 medium eggs. So into the bowl, I've got 150 grams of caster sugar, and I'm going to pop in my lovely soft margarine. Now, making your cupcakes with margarine means you can't really fail at creaming it and getting it right. So by doing it by hand will help you remember what it feels like, because cooking is all about how it tastes, how it feels, how it smells. If something smells like it's burning, guess what? It's burning. You use your senses the whole time, even if you're not thinking about it. So getting back to how we used to make them at school, with a bowl and a wooden spoon. Hold your wooden spoon with the back towards the bowl, with your pressure and your finger right down at the base of the spoon. This will give you more leverage. Press your margarine or your butter into the sugar to get it to mix in properly first. Very, very quickly, it should mix. Now, if you're doing it with butter, the colour of the butter will change. It will change from being a very deep yellow to being almost the colour of whipped cream. That is because as you mix in and cream the mixture, you are beating in air. The little granules of sugar break down the butter and they help trap in air bubbles. Now, those tiny air bubbles are what will help your cupcakes and give them a lot of lift. Once you've got it mixed in, then really give it a good beat. If you're doing this in a mixer, it'll take a little bit longer if you're doing it with butter. It will be incredibly quick if you are mixing margarine and sugar. So don't walk away, because the danger there is that you can overcream. If you overcream, your mixture will come up and it'll be very, very mousse-like in texture. When you cook them, they will come up and be absolutely dead flat, but once they cool, they will sink and they will taste a little bit like soufflés. So if you do it in a mixer, do not walk away. So there is a trick to find out whether you have creamed it sufficiently or not. Take 1 spoonful of the mixture and give it a short, sharp tap on the side of the bowl. If the mixture comes straight off the bowl, then you've creamed it sufficiently. If it doesn't, you need to keep going. Just like that, perfect. At that point, stop. Do not mix anymore, or you will be in danger of over-creaming. Now, the other 2 ingredients we're going to add are eggs and self-raising flour. Self-raising flour already has baking powder in it. The baking powder, when it is heated in the oven, releases carbon dioxide. This then attaches itself to the air bubbles, increases the air bubbles that you've already mixed into your creamed margarine and sugar mixture, makes them bigger, which means that when you actually have got your cakes cooked, the carbon dioxide is killed off with the heat and you have lovely, fluffy cupcakes. Now, a lot of purists, when they're making cupcakes, will say you need to add your eggs into your creamed mixture a tablespoon at a time, along with a teaspoon of flour. Now, there are a lot of shortcuts that you can make with cupcakes. Creaming is not one of them. Creaming, you really have to get that perfect. But as far as adding your eggs in, if you add your eggs in a little at a time, you are in danger of the mixture curdling. If your mixture curdles, it's fine, just add the flour. You will bring it back. But to get you over any curdling stress, pop your eggs into the mixture and tip your flour into the mixture at the same time. Seriously, it works. You won't have any issues with that. Switch over to a metal spoon. You have all those wonderful air bubbles trapped in your cream mixture and you don't want to squish those out. So with your wooden spoon, just fold in the eggs and the flour until it's all incorporated. Now the metal edges of the spoon will cut through the mixture and you will lose very, very few of the air bubbles. If you use your wooden spoon to mix in your flour and the eggs, you've got more surface area and wider edges, so you are in danger of squishing out the air bubbles. And that is very precious air you don't want to squish out. So mix it all in together and it should be a lovely, smooth mixture. If you're adding cocoa powder, add the cocoa powder at the same time that you add the flour, but make sure you always sieve your cocoa powder. You can get away without sieving your flour if you're opening a brand new packet, but not with cocoa powder. So there we go, a lovely smooth mixture, very quick and very simple. Filling your cupcakes, there is an art to this. A 150 gram 3-egg mix will fill a 12-hole cupcake tray, but it depends on the size of your cupcake. There are a lot of different cupcakes on the market in different sizes. The standard UK, US cupcake is 50 millimetres across by around about 32 millimetres high. Now, using the standard European, US, UK cupcake size, you will actually need to fill 13 and a bit cupcakes. Otherwise, they will come quite peaked, they'll end up coming over the top and you won't be able to get dead flat fondant icing on them. So if you find slightly deeper cupcake cases, they should be around about 35.5 millimetres, and there's an awful lot available on the internet. These are your standard cupcake cases. These are scallop wraps. Now these are slightly higher than your cupcake case. These will give you a lovely extra section at the top to create the beautiful swirl effects. And then you've got the tulip wraps. Now these are even higher, and these will turn any boring, basic muffin or cupcake mix into something spectacular with very, very little effort. But the trick with these is making sure you fill them properly. And to do this, no fingers, you need 2 spoons. You need to take a deep breath. 1 spoonful of mixture, scrape the underside on the bowl because you don't want any dangly bits under there. If you manage to get any cupcake mixture on your tulip wrap, even if you scrape it off, you will get a grease mark. If you cook it, it will burn on there. So you've got to take a deep breath and just go for it. Straight over the top, don't touch it on the bottom, and use your other spoon to scrape. Twist your spoon and lift it off very, very quickly. And then do your next one. What I tend to find is that you do 3 and you're really careful about doing it. After you've done the 3rd, you think, this is easy, I can do this. And then you completely mess up on the 4th one. So straight over the top, scrape it, twist, and back into your bowl. If you touch the bottom of your cupcake case or your tulip wrap with the mixture, it will stick to your spoon. As you pull that up, it will bring the cake case with you, and it will quite easily turn over, which means you get a cupcake tray full of cupcake mix. The cupcake mix is stuck in the bottom of your cupcake case and it ends up a real mess. If you've got an ice cream scoop, this is another good way. Usually with an ice cream scoop, you can fill 12 cupcake cases with 1 scoop of the ice cream. To make sure you get even quantities, put 1 tablespoon in each cupcake case and then go back and refill. It's round about 1.5 tablespoons per cupcake case will usually do you. So now the cupcake's ready to go in the oven. Now the trick with making sure you get dead flat cupcakes rather than pyramids is to be at one with your oven. It's a bit of Zen coming into there. Get to know your oven, make friends with your oven. And I'm not being silly, but seriously, everybody's oven will be a different temperature. If your oven says 180 degrees, it probably hasn't been calibrated since it left the factory. So just because it says 180 degrees doesn't actually mean it is operating at 180 degrees, or it's 180 degrees at the top, at the bottom, at the back, or at the front. And the only way of really getting the correct temperature in your oven is to get an oven thermometer and doing a recording to see which parts of your oven are the hottest. The other thing, it's pretty obvious if you put your cupcakes in the oven and the ones at the back start cooking before the ones at the front. And when they come up to a point, this is what I call pyramid cupcakes. Now, with a pyramid, what happens when the cupcakes hit the oven? They start to cook. The carbon dioxide in the baking powder begins to be released. And of course, they will start to cook on the hottest place possible. This is in a metal tray. Metal is a really good conductor of heat. So of course, around the sides and the bottom will start to cook before the mixture on the inside. Ideally, if your cooker, your oven is at 180 degrees or gas mark 5 exactly, then the mixture will cook all the same time and at the same consistency, so it will raise together. So you will have a dead flat cupcake at the end, but most people's ovens aren't. So what will then happen is that the outside of the cupcake mixture will start cooking quicker. The liquid centre will be a little bit slower to catch up. The cupcake will then start to rise. The mixture in the middle will eventually catch up. It'll be racing ahead trying to catch up. It'll eventually start cooking. And the only way that that cupcake can then move is upwards, because it's the path of least resistance. And it will push up just like a volcano exploding. It will crack the top and you will end up with a pyramid, which actually looks a little bit like the Alien movie, where it's kind of cracked open and you've got the lava flowing at the top. This then leads us into crumb stress. Now, crumb stress is the deepest, darkest depths of cupcake making. Crumb stress is when you have to chop off the top of your pyramid cupcake. And when you release the top of the cupcake underneath, you've released crumb. You then try to ice it. And as you wiggle your spoon with your gorgeous sticky icing on the top, the crumb sticks to it. As you move your spoon, it gets mixed in with your icing, which gets you really, really stressed because you've now got crumb in your icing. Hence, crumb stress. We will combat crumb stress later when we cover the icing. But to stop getting anywhere near crumb stress, get to know your oven. Be at one with your oven. Make friends with it. Lower your temperature of your oven if you are getting pyramid cupcakes. Quick Arga tip, if you are cooking with an Arga, if you have a 3 or a 4 oven Arga, then put your cupcakes in the baking oven. If you have a 2 oven Arga, you'll need to put them in the roasting oven. Now, the roasting oven is way too hot for cupcakes, so you will always end up with pyramids unless you're putting them in just after you finish cooking a roast dinner. So what you would need to do is put your grid on the floor of the roasting oven and then put your plain cold shelf in above on about the second set of runners down, which will deflect some of the heat. You may end up getting a little bit of the pyramid. These are some that I made earlier, and you can see where the top has started to crack a little bit. Now, if I want to do dead flat fondant on there, I am going to have to chop the top off, and we'll then come into crumb stress territory, but we'll cover that during fondant icing. Your cupcakes should take around about 20 to 25 minutes to cook. When they come out of the oven, they should be golden brown. If you press the top with your finger, make sure it's clean first, then it should spring straight back up. If it feels squishy and it doesn't come straight back up, then they need a little bit longer. The other way of testing is to use a skewer, insert a clean skewer, insert it straight into the middle of your cupcake, pull it out, and if there's no mixture on there, then they're cooked. Transfer them to a wire rack to cool, and then we can get on with the icing.